do a lot with some of the mixes when we would get back is he wouldn't say a lot, but when he was really wanting something, he made it known for sure. And I just remember Joseph and I, we were doing a lot of communication on the mixes and saying like what we like and what we don't like. And we'd finally send it off to Adam to get his opinions, and all of a sudden we get this email back, and it's all in caps lock, and it says, guys, comma, 156 or whatever it might be on it. He was like, this is a piccolo snare.
Yeah. The original tracking engineer had sample replaced. Like Adam made sure, like, I mean, you should see the rider, like, because we had to rent his drums. We weren't going to fly his drums from Minnesota to Arizona. Yeah. So, you know, we had this whole list, and one of the things we had was a piccolo snare, because on like maybe like 3 songs, like two little sections had a piccolo snare, but he had to have that fucking piccolo snare. Like, there's this syncopated thing where it alternates between the 2 snares. And the original tracking engineer didn't really give a shit. And he went in and sample replaced with the same sample both snare sounds. So when we sent Adam the mixes, he was pissed, to say the least. He was not happy. And when I played with Sagan for the first time on this one, we went through the whole thing, and every single section was almost there and nailed. It was like we were the same person. That's how much, you know, we connected musically. And it's just a great feeling whenever you have that. It can be very disheartening when you don't. And Sagan was, again, he was just like Joseph and I. He was super meticulous on wanting to make sure that everything that he had in his mind was going to be done. And this little piccolo snare example was just one of the stories that we can share. I had this idea of putting some of these type of classical type chords in there, like a Neapolitan chord, using some augmented chords, and I thought it'd be really cool for a chorus idea of a song. So I picked up the guitar, and with a few little tweaks, there was the guitar's arpeggiated section in the chorus to Portrait. The intro to Portrait was an idea I had because I wanted to throw in. I didn't know what this arpeggio sequence was going to be like, but I knew I wanted these chords, and I wanted it to be played within this sort of rhythm. And that happened, and I had the riff, the main riff to Portrait, and the A section, the B section, if you will. I had that, and then the verse idea was just kind of played off of the intro as well. And that was written in one of the first writing sessions that Joseph and I had. I think the verse was for sure. Yeah, we had the verse.
Yeah, but the ending of the song was it was the idea of kind of having something that was a contrast to, you know, a lot of the technicality and the aggressiveness, if you will, of what was going on in the first half, of having like almost like an answer to that by just having something very simplistic, very open sounding, and very clean, that would contrast what was going on during the majority of the 3/4 of the first half of the song.
Jake really liked the idea of combining like modern metal with like a Pink Floyd, Queen aesthetic, like even maybe King Diamond, where the keyboards play like a thematic role, like textural. Like if you listen to the chorus of Portrait, there's these little keyboard lines that kind of act as counterpoint to what the vocal is doing. They add texture in the ending that he's talking about, where there's a lot of space, and then you hear this airy synth behind it.
Yeah, I would say the keyboards in the band and especially with this song in general, what are not exactly, there's not something that you would play that section, like say if you had friends over on a keyboard and they would be like, oh, that's that song. It's more, but if they weren't inside of the song in the mix, you'd be able to tell a big difference. Be like, wow, this does not sound as full.
Yeah, I got the idea for the whole verse section with the painting is actually I was sitting here staring at Jake's album cover. He has the painting on his wall. Adam played on that, right?
Yeah, it was an album I did with Adam called In the Shadows of Madness, and the artist was named Travis Ernst, who unfortunately just passed away as well.
Right after Adam.
And so I was there playing it, and I just see Joseph up there looking at it, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, writing lyrics.
Yeah, it's ironic that I got the lyrical idea, like at least that verse was, that whole section. It's weird, like, because I was actually staring at the painting, writing the lyrics about staring at a painting, and then talking about this, unnamed figure. And then when we handed off the lyrics to the artist Christian, then he used that to create the artwork for this record. So it's this weird kind of synergism. Is that good? Yeah.
The thing I remember about this song is I was down in Florida after a tour, and I came up with this a riff, and then what became the intro riff, and then what also became the verse riff. Right after I did that, I remember Joseph and I had this conversation in Lyme Regis about us forming a band, and at that point in time, I was like, okay, I gotta get the singer on this, and I immediately heard Joseph's voice in my head. So I went and wrote him, and I said, hey man, I got this stuff. Were you really serious about wanting to do that? And he wrote back, and he's like, absolutely, can we start working on this? And that was the origins of what we were dying for the riff part. And again, during that same session, I think it would have been Portia what we were dying for in the time.
When we got here and started working on that song, he mentioned something about like Sabotage, like he had heard
Sirens.
Yeah, like old school Sabotage, and I mean that's like right up my alley. I'm a huge Sabotage fan, so like he played me the riff. I think it was a little busier than what ended up on the record.
It might have been.
Yeah, but it was almost like a classic 80s thing where like everything stops and it's just the vocal and percussion, and then the chords kind of hit in between.
That was the verse, and this chorus was this very 16th note, very busy type section, where it's almost, to me, it was almost kind of like a contrast to what the verse is very open, and then it's kind of this.
I think it's the most aggressive and the most laid back song at the same time.
Yeah. Joseph and Adam and I were up in Minneapolis doing a pre-production writing session, and we had this idea of that. It was this middle section that we wanted to have a flamenco section, and we wanted to go back. But we didn't know how to actually get into the flamenco section. We didn't have that. We had an idea of kind of what we wanted to go. And this is a song that Adam Sagan has a writing credit on, because he almost orchestrated this very Edge of Sanity death metal type kind of deal going on, but also meets Black Album. Adam was the one that completely kind of made that song all come together. And then later on, the whole flamenco section there was just the idea of, I always wanted to hear a song that was a metal song, but all of a sudden went into this insane direction, this crazy flamenco type thing. And it's also very kind of influenced by the band Return to Forever with Al Di Meola, Stanley Clarke, and Lenny White, and Chick Corea. And
there's like a ghost organ behind the solo.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's
some of that
very
stuff
organic sounding.
The solo hadn't been written yet, but Sagan had already come up with all these. That was one of Sagan's best things, was that he would come up with these fills, and they would have these rhythmic type of fills. And hearing that, I was like, this is how it was just written so well, that what Sagan had done. And then I was like, the solo should follow this, And I think Anthony worked on that as well, and I'm sure it worked on keyboards.
It's a little buried in there, but thematically, it's just a very anti-religious song, anti-organized religion. The first line, the fields lined with ponds are prepped for harvest, is just, it's a metaphor for the sheep and the wolf, and that's all it is. It's just it's an anti-religious song, and I want it to be as gentle as possible with the message.
Pretty much, that's the origin of that's what we were dying for.